guys, most people know the elder tree because of the berries from that tree. The syrups, the gummies, the supplements. Today, I'm standing here with the part of the plant that comes first, the flowers. And here's the thing, the elderflowers only stick around for a very short time. So if you miss them, well, you have to wait until next year or order some dried ones. So why do herbalists get so excited when elderflower season arrives? Well, let's talk about that. So if you've ever harvested these on a nice warm sunny day, make sure you bring something to put them in, because the bees will chase you while you're harvesting them. It's actually part of the entertainment. But if you're just standing there holding a bouquet, they love them so much. But these are your elderflowers. They're the blossom of the elder tree, right? And they ultimately become the elderberries later in the season. So you don't want to over harvest them, right? So you can have elderberries. But when most people think about elder, they only think about the berries, right? So herbalists often pay attention to the elder tree a lot sooner because these flowers have a story all of their own. So why does fresh matter? One of the first things you'll notice is the aroma, and this is why the bees chase you. Me and my daughter actually got chased out of a bush the other day. So if you hold them up to your face, that fresh fragrance it's really hard for me to explain to you, and it's actually really hard to keep once it's dried. But it's floral, it's sweet, it's almost honey-like in the state. Again, probably why the bees were chasing me. So that brightness is really hard to kind of communicate unless you guys stop and, well, smell the flowers. So one of the reasons we try to work with the fresh flowers as soon as we can is to try to hold on to that aromatic quality right before it starts to fade. So elderflower as the herbal language, right? If you've been following the herbal language series, elderflower helps us incorporate and learn some new words, right? So this is a diaphoretic, right? One of the actions most commonly associated with elderflower is diaphoretic. What is diaphoretic? It's an herb traditionally used to support respiration. So a lot of people don't want to sweat, but there are reasons for it. So this is why you'll see elderflower show up in so many traditional texts, is because of that. As we already talked about, it is aromatic, right? This one's easy to understand, right? You just smell it. The smell is very nice. Now, again, that's my palate. Somebody might think it stinks. There's always that one person. But the plant's volatile oils actually contribute to that fragrance. And when we describe a plant as aromatic, you're talking about the scent-producing compounds of the plant. It's also a gentle alternative. So some herbalist traditions also classify elderflower in that mild alternative category, right? So if you remember from that video, alternatives are herbs associated with supporting the natural process over time. So it's depending on how we're taking it, how we're using it. So why do we want to harvest the flower instead of waiting for the berries? Well, this is something I think many people don't realize, or they're just starting to realize. The elder tree gives you multiple harvests, right? So it's, again, one of those plants where you can get multiple uses out of it. So first you get the flowers, right? And then later you get the berries, and I'm going to do a different video on the berries. I've made the syrup before. You can always check that out. But there's a different chemistry and different preparations and different uses, but still using the same plant, right? So if you only were to harvest the berries, you've skipped an entire stage, right, of what this plant actually has to offer you. So this is where things are going to get a little fun, and I have a couple of the preparations here. Because fresh elderflowers can become a lot of different things, right? let's kind of get into that. So we're going to start with honey. You can infuse elderflowers in honey. And all I do, because you can't really shake honey, I just keep tipping it from one side to the other. But this is actually a fun way to preserve elderflower because honey captures much of the flower's aroma, right, while creating something sweet. And now you can stir it into your teas, right? You can add it a bunch of different ways. And like I said, I just, instead of shaking it, I just flip it back and forth. You can also drizzle that honey over your food, right? So the honey itself becomes part of your preparation. And you can preserve a lot of things in honey, which I find kind of interesting as well. We also have our Elderflower Tincture, right? And so this alcohol is going to extract different compounds than the honey is, right? As we learned in some of our other videos. In particular, alcohol does a wonderful job of capturing the aromatic compounds, right, and preserving them for a long time. Same flower, different solvent, different results, right? So again, we're asking ourselves, how do we want, right, to take these herbs, right? You can also do elderflower tea, right? And this is actually one of the most popular traditional preparations of elderflower. I actually use it in some of my salves too, but fresh or dried flowers can be infused in hot water, and your water is going to extract different compounds than your alcohol. And unlike tinctures, teas also become an experience, right? The aroma and the steam and the warmth all becoming part of that preparation, and why a lot of people end up loving this herb. So let's talk drying elderflowers. So sometimes, right, the simplest preparation is simply just drying them, right? So a dry jar of elderflowers gives you many options later, right? You can make teas with it, you can tincture it. So let's say you have a very short window to harvest, but you want to be able to use them later because you just don't have time to throw everything together now. You can dry them for future processes and projects, right? But drying doesn't just preserve the flowers, it preserves your possibilities, right? So if you're short on time, but you want to come back to them, you can dry these. Just make sure they're really dry before you go sticking them in a jar to avoid a mold situation. Now, some people know about elderberry syrup, but few people realize you can make elderflower into a syrup too. So the flowers have a completely different flavor profile than the berries, right? And so that's part of what kind of makes them interesting, right? How they start here in there, and there's totally different. These don't smell like feet when you make syrup out of them. Elderberry smells like feet to me for some reason. I don't know why. So you can also make vinegars with them, right? So another less common preparation is you can make an elderflower vinegar, right? And it's going to do a completely different extraction than the alcohol or the honey, but it's going to allow those herbs to become part of your everyday meals and dressings if you want to as well. And again, right, we're not trying to pump these in every day, but it's just fun ways to use them. And as always, do your own research and see if you have any allergies, etc. So I think elderflower teaches us a very important lesson, right? Again, just like oats did, paying attention to the entire life cycle of the plant, right? The flowers matter, the berries matter, the timing matters, right? And sometimes the most overlooked part of the plant turns out to be the most fascinating. I mean, if nothing else, you can spend quality time with the bees while they chase you around when you harvest it. That was so much fun. So, what do we want to remember from today's video if we're only going to remember one thing? Before there were elderberries, there's always elderflower. And for generations, herbalists have considered these flowers valuable enough to harvest, dry, tincture, infuse, and preserve, right? Before we really started playing with the berries. So that's why every year when these flowers bloom, herbalists pay attention and we try to gather them and use them as much as we can. So I hope you found this informative. And until next time, stay rooted, stay curious, and keep growing in grace. Bye, guys.